And welcome back to centralcoastradio.com. Well, now it's time to take a look at another film that is in cinemas at the moment that is getting a lot of buzz around it. Of course, this film picked up awards at the Venice Film Festival and has been strongly talked about. Now we're coming into awards season. I'm talking about the brand new movie from director Sofia Coppola. It is called Priscilla, and it looks at the life and romance, I should say, of Priscilla Presley, played here by Kaylee Spaney, and, of course, her very, very famous husband, Elvis, played by Jacob Elordi. I'll get it out eventually. But this film goes back and looks at what their romance was actually like, because a lot of people forget that when they first started dating, she was a very, very young teenager, and Elvis was already 24. This film goes back and explores that romance, how it happened, the different things that was going on in Priscilla's life at that time, of course, having to get her parents' permission to, of course, date Elvis, and, of course, what it was like dating the most famous man in the world at that time. It also goes on and looks at their marriage and their relationship within their marriage. But Lee, of course, when we've seen Elvis on screen over the past few years or on stage, it's been bright and flashy. Of course, we had the Baz Luhrmann film Elvis, and then you and I saw the musical last year as well. What did you think of Priscilla? Because it's very, very different from those productions.
Well, yeah, of course, this is from Priscilla's point of view. I guess most of what we've watched in the past is all from Elvis's point of view, or a promoter's point of view. So this story starts with, of course, Priscilla meeting Elvis in 1959. Now, she was only 14 years old, very young, and as you mentioned, he was 24. So obviously it follows the story from their meeting in Germany at a party at Elvis's rented home. So it was a private party. It wasn't just an all-out public party.
And it was on the the army base as well. So yeah.
And of course, it goes through to them being married in 1967. By that stage, Priscilla's 21 and Elvis is 32. And of course, the birth of their daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, and that was in 1968. And then through to the sad ending of their marriage in 1973. Now, this, of course, is no secret. It's not like we're giving really anything away, because, this is a very public story. It's something very, very well known.
We all know Elvis died on the toilet.
Yeah, we know things about their personal lives, which I guess is sad in itself, is that this family really had no privacy, to be honest. Now, this is also based on Priscilla's memoir called Elvis and Me, so a book that she wrote. And
it's produced by her as well.
Yeah, this movie is produced by her. So, of course, you see her falling in love with her idol. They become best friends, and she supports him in every way. But this movie then moves into revealing Priscilla as a victim, I guess, of Elvis's control, his drug use and his grooming. Remembering that at 14, they start to see each other and date, and of course, I guess he's more like a parent figure to her at the start, telling her what she can and can't do, and within what timing. But also noted, when she was very young, he starts to give her pills, starts to give her drugs, and I guess that's part of the issue within this relationship, is that already they're off to a start of, first of all, you've got Elvis, who's publicly known, who's, girls are throwing themselves all over him.
He was the world's most famous person at that time.
Yeah, and you've got a young girl who, has to learn how to handle that fame, not only of her husband, but she's become well known too, and people want
Yep.
photos of her. You've got the paparazzi following her.
And questions about his fidelity as well. Like, there's
That's
times
right.
when she picks up like a USA Today magazine or something, or Entertainment Weekly, and there's a story in there saying that Elvis is now dating Nancy Sinatra on the set of their latest film. And it's like, for her, it's like, is that a made-up story? Is there some truth to it? So yeah, there's a lot of different things like that as well.
Yeah. And this story certainly portrays that she always loved Elvis. There was no question that she didn't love him. But her life became sad and unhappy because basically she's waiting around for Elvis. He's going on tours. He's, on the stage all the time, which is expected. But then he stays away from home even longer, and he's spending time with friends. Perhaps he's being involved in infidelity. There's questions around that, as you said. The romance between the two is hit and miss with him and his wife. And, they have a child together, but he's not really much around as a dad. And so it's just interesting seeing this movie from her point of view, where in actual fact you come out feeling from the movie that she actually had a sad life, a controlled life. Of course, hanging with the stars isn't always what it's cracked up to be, and she makes the decision to move forward from that. Now, I think what's missing from this film is she becomes strong enough and independent enough to make the call that, she's going to leave the marriage. And you can see that, there's a future ahead of her. What is she going to choose to do next? But the movie stops there. You actually don't see where that progresses. And, of course, there's lots of information out there easily accessible because they were such a famous couple and people do know about her. But it would have been nice to actually see where she went from there.
Yeah.
I think that her whole life was about Elvis, and then at the point of time she becomes her own person, remembering that she's never been an adult not knowing Elvis or being part of Elvis's life. Her life has always been intertwined with his, and she finds herself, becomes independent, she's moving forward. Of course, they've got their child together still, but then it stops, and you're like, okay, but what's the next? I want to see the next point for her life, without it all being centered around Elvis.
Yeah, look, I'll admit, when I first heard about this movie, I was skeptical because I thought this movie was going to go in either one of two directions. First of all, this movie was kind of announced at about the time when everybody started talking about the whole Epstein pedophile island thing in Hollywood. And it was really interesting because in the early days when that was talked about, a lot of people used to throw into the mix of, oh, well, that's always been the case in Hollywood. Remember, Elvis was with Priscilla when she was 14 years old. I thought either that was going to try and clear that, like kind of make it a romantic kind of thing, or I thought it was going to take the path of the 2013 film Diana that Naomi Watts made, where she plays Princess Diana. And that film was supposed to look at the darker sides of Diana's life and the relationship she had with heart surgeon Hasnat Khan. Now, for me, for that movie, I was really looking forward to it because I wanted to see a movie that told the truth about the life of Princess Diana. But I don't think that film did tell the truth because I am still not convinced that Diana was hiding herself in boots of cars and having midnight snacks with Hasnat Khan in charcoal chicken shops. I just don't think that's true at all. And I know they portrayed that in the movie as it being true. So I was kind of thinking with this film that they might do the same thing. Either they would try and dismiss this stuff that people have talked about when they talk about the Elvis and Priscilla relationship, or it would introduce stuff in there that wasn't true to try and make it more entertaining. But there was one thing that kind of saved that for me, was that Sofia Coppola was directing this film. Now, I've loved some of the films that she's made over the years. I love The Virgin Suicides. I love The Bling Ring. Even Marie Antoinette. I think she's a very good director. And there's a family link there because Sofia Coppola is Nicolas Cage's cousin. Of course, he's Nicolas Coppola in real life. She's his cousin. And of course, Nicolas Cage married Lisa Marie Presley. So I was thinking there's a little bit of a connection in there. Also, Priscilla, being a producer on this, kind of told me that there was going to be a truth to this film, or Priscilla's truth, depending on which way you want to look at it. But I don't know, there was something about this film where I was absolutely in awe of the acting performances from Kaylee Spaney, who played Priscilla, and Jacob Elordi, who played Elvis. And I love the look that that Sofia Coppola gave it. There was a real kind of 1970s, 1960s filmmaking vibe to the film. It really wrapped up and captured that whole Memphis feel about where Graceland was. But I still wanted more from this film. I don't know. There was just something there where it was like, it was so repetitive. And I'm not sure whether or not that was just poor screenwriting, or whether or not it was deliberate. If it was deliberate, then it definitely worked to show that Priscilla kind of lived this boring life where at times she was almost like a prisoner at Gracelands. If that was what Sofia Coppola was trying to do as a filmmaker, well, she nailed it, because I felt that boredom at times when I was watching the film. But I just felt like I wanted more from this film. One of the things I really wanted to see was how Colonel Parker was from Priscilla's point of view, because of course when I was a kid, Colonel Parker was like a hero, what this great man did for the great Elvis Presley. But then over the years we've kind of seen the darker side of Colonel Parker, and I was kind of interested to see how Priscilla saw him and how he treated her. Did he see her as a threat to his money cow kind of thing? What were some of the crueler things that Elvis did to Priscilla? Did that come from Parker? Like, did he say, don't bring her out here to Hollywood, that kind of thing? I wanted to see more of that, and that's completely almost swept over in this film. In fact, you don't even see Colonel Parker. There's a few phone calls, but that's about it. So I think I wanted more from this film. I don't think I probably won't see another movie this year that has left me so eternally twisted about a film, because I love the acting performances in this, but I just wanted something more from this film. It left me kind of feeling a bit empty at the end. But Lee, what are you going to give this 1 out of 5 and why?
I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. I too enjoyed the acting. I did enjoy the movie itself, in terms of having a glimpse into Priscilla's life rather than through, a glimpse at Elvis's life so much. I mean, of course, it's intertwined, but I liked seeing her life from her perspective, because, as I said, it's based on her memoirs. But also, as I said, there was some things left undone. I wanted to see the next step of her becoming her independent self. And as you've said, you wanted to see some of that extra storyline as well come in from, yes, Elvis's life, but because they're man and wife, the husband and wife, there would have been insight into what Priscilla saw.
Yeah, I also wanted to see, I guess, a little more about with what they call these days, and I'm not being rude when I say it because it's what it's referred to, of her reaction to the fat Elvis years as well. Like when he was a kind of, people forget, for a while he was a washed up star. Nobody wanted to touch him like with a 10-foot pole. Like they kind of touch on it a little bit in the film, but you kind of wondered like what she was going through at that time. Like, what did she think when suddenly he wasn't getting the movie roles, or he couldn't get the concert dates and things like that? Like, was she thinking about leaving him at that point? Was she going to stick by him? All of that kind of stuff is kind of swept over completely. So, yeah, I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5. I did love the performance of Kaylee Spaney. I thought she was absolutely remarkable in it. But, yeah, there was just a bunch of other stuff I felt could have been looked at in this film as well. Now, of course, Priscilla is a limited release in Australia, so please check your local cinema guide before you go and book your tickets to see if it's showing somewhere near you. I gave it 3 out of 5 and Lee gave it...
Also 3 out of 5.
So that's our wrap-up of Priscilla here on CentralCoastRadio.com.